The summer sun spilled softly across a quiet suburban street, its warmth brushing over the wooden crate where a little girl sat. Her name was Rosie, barely 7 years old, wearing a faded pink dress that had lost its color from too many washes. On the front of her stand, written in shaky, uneven letters, was a cardboard sign that read, "Buy my lemonade, it's to help my sick mommy." Her small hands clutched a paper cup half filled with pale yellow lemonade, its ice already melting away under the heat. People passed by, joggers, office workers, mothers pushing strollers, but most only smiled faintly and kept walking. To them, she was just another child with a summer stand. But Rosie wasn't selling for fun. She was selling to survive. Behind her, under the shade of a large oak tree, sat her mother, Claire. Once beautiful and bright, Claire now looked fragile. Her frame thin, her skin pale, her breath shallow. The sickness had come quietly, then violently, taking her job, her energy, and nearly her hope. What it hadn't taken was her love for her daughter. They had lost their home months ago after the company she worked for went bankrupt overnight, a company her boss had promised would never fail. That same man, a ruthless CEO named Victor Hale, had walked away with millions while families like theirs were left with nothing. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind the world that hearts still matter, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. It helps us keep telling stories that touch souls like yours. Rosie didn't understand much about business or greed. She just knew her mommy was sick and medicine cost more than they had. So, she filled a jar with coins she earned selling lemonade and prayed each day that someone kind would stop and help. That morning, as she wiped sweat from her forehead, the deep growl of motorcycle engines rolled down the street like thunder. Her little heart jumped. She looked up to see 5 bikers pulling over near the curb, huge men in black leather vests, tattoos climbing their arms, and sunglasses hiding their eyes. They looked rough, intimidating, and out of place in the soft sunlight. The central biker, tall, broad, with a thick beard and a patched vest reading, "Hell's Angels," crouched down near her stand. For a moment, Rosie froze. She'd never seen men like them this close. But when the leader, Mick, smiled, it wasn't scary. It was kind. He read her sign slowly, then glanced past her toward Claire, sitting weakly under the tree. Something in his expression shifted, like a memory resurfacing from long ago. He took a sip of her lemonade, winced slightly at the tartness, and pulled out a $20 bill. "Keep the change," he said softly. The others followed, some tossing in bills, others handing her coins until Rosie's jar was nearly full. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered a small thank you. But the bikers didn't leave. Mick turned again toward Claire, noticing her hollow cheeks and trembling hands. He saw something familiar, the look of someone who'd been crushed by life's cruelty, not by fate, but by another person's greed. They sat near their bikes for a while, talking quietly. The youngest of the group, Ryder, mentioned that the name Claire Montreux sounded familiar. He remembered hearing about a single mother who was one of hundreds laid off by Victor Hale's company when it collapsed. A company he and his brothers once worked with as security escorts for charity events before the scandal. They all knew the story, how the CEO had siphoned millions into offshore accounts and vanished while ordinary workers were left penniless. Mick clenched his jaw. He had a daughter once about Rose's age, lost in an accident years ago. Watching Rosie fight for her mother's life hit him like a punch to the chest. He couldn't walk away. Not this time. That evening, the bikers followed Claire and Rosie at a distance as they walked home. Not to a real home, but a small shelter room at the edge of town. They watched as Rosie counted her earnings, barely enough for dinner and half a bottle of medicine. Mick's hand shook as he pulled out his phone. "We're finding him," he said to his crew. "The men who did this." The next few days were a blur of engines and vengeance wrapped in justice. The bikers began digging, calling in favors, tracking down leads. Victor Hale wasn't hiding. He was living lavishly in a gated mansion just a few miles away, running a new company under a fake name. When they found him, they didn't storm in or break laws. Instead, they exposed him. Ryder's cousin worked in local news, and soon the story broke everywhere. CEO, who bankrupted dozens of families found running a legal shell firm. Overnight, Victor Hale's empire crumbled, his accounts frozen, and authorities at his door. While the world watched the scandal unfold, Rosie and Claire woke one morning to a knock. Mick stood there holding a small envelope. Inside were several thousand donations from bikers across the state who'd heard her story. "This isn't charity," Mick said gently. "It's a chance to start over." Claire's hands trembled as she took it, tears spilling freely. Rosie ran forward, hugging Mick's leg, whispering thank yous that broke even the toughest hearts in that room. Weeks passed. Claire's health began to improve. She moved into a modest apartment near a park, and Rosie started school again. The lemonade stand was gone, replaced by laughter, home-cooked meals, and hope that didn't feel borrowed anymore. The bikers visited often, not as saviors, but as family. They fixed things around the house, helped with bills, and told Rosie stories about the road, for men who'd seen too much darkness. That little girl had become their light. Then one sunny afternoon, Rosie set up a new sign outside her home. This one painted in bright colors, reading, "Free lemonade for kind people." When Mick saw it, he smiled, knowing that kindness had come full circle. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about redemption for all of them. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that compassion can change lives, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. It helps us continue sharing stories that restore faith in humanity. Before you hear how it all ended, I'd love to know your thoughts. What would you have done if you saw a little girl selling lemonade for a sick mom? Please share in the comments below. Your words matter more than you think. In the end, Rosa's sign still hangs in their kitchen, worn, wrinkled, but never forgotten. "Buy my lemonade. It's to help my sick mommy." Those words once came from desperation. But now they remind everyone who visits that even the smallest act of kindness can rewrite a life. Sometimes heroes wear leather jackets, ride roaring bikes, and carry broken hearts that still know how to care. And sometimes all it takes to change the world is a child's lemonade stand on a summer afternoon.